and look like the great Wayne Gretzky has some things to say about
Wayne Gretzky just dropped some truth bombs about Caitlin Clark that nobody saw coming. The hockey legend went completely unfiltered in his latest interview, and what he said about Clark's impact on the WNBA has everyone talking. Trust me, this isn't your typical athlete praise. Gretzky held absolutely nothing back. What do you think a hockey legend bringing up Caitlin Clark says about her reach beyond basketball? Now, before we jump into what the great one actually said, let me set the scene for you. Wayne Gretzky appeared on the New Heights podcast with Travis and Jason Kelsey, and honestly, nobody expected him to bring up women's basketball. But here we are, and what came out of his mouth was pure gold, unlike some of the takes we've been hearing from certain WNBA players lately.
Sit back as fans and go, you know, this is wonderful. This is great. We get to watch. We have bleacher seats here, and we get to adore these athletes. Look at Caitlin Clark, how she's kept just taken over the country, and for that matter, maybe the world, and how she's encouraged so many young girls now to participate in sports, whether it's basketball or soccer or volleyball. My dad used to always say, the greatest thing about sports is that you learn so much about real life. You learn how to be unselfish. You learn how to be dedicated. You learn how to work hard. You learn how to win. And then you learn how to pick yourself up off the ground when you lose. And that's what life is all about.
Gretzky said, look at Caitlin Clark, how she's just taken over the country, for that matter, maybe the world. She's encouraged so many young girls now to participate in sports, whether it's basketball or soccer, volleyball. Now, when Wayne Gretzky, the man who literally owns most NHL records, says you've taken over the world, you better believe that carries some serious weight. Unlike, you know, whatever Diana Taurasi was trying to say about rookies getting humbled, but here's where it gets interesting and frankly hilarious. Gretzky wasn't just throwing around casual compliments like some participation trophy ceremony. He was making a deliberate comparison between what Clark has done for women's basketball and what transcendent athletes do for their respective sports. This is the same guy who watched Alex Ovechkin break his all-time goals record, and he's grouping Clark into that category of game changers. Meanwhile, some WNBA veterans are still trying to figure out why attendance suddenly matters.
Where he's like Wayne Gretzky, Michael Jordan, probably eventually Caitlin Clark, where it's like individual people make an entire like country tune into their sport.
1,000%.
Like hockey was never bigger than when Wayne Gretzky was playing it, and it was ridiculous how much it grew the sport.
Tiger Woods.
The timing of these comments is absolutely perfect too, and honestly, you can't write this stuff. Clark is currently nursing a quad injury and missing games for the first time in her professional career. Yet even while she's sitting on the bench, she's still dominating conversations across all sports. That's the kind of influence Gretzky was talking about. It transcends actually playing the game. Kind of makes you wonder what excuse her critics will come up with next. She's stealing attention even while injured. Probably. What's really wild is how Gretzky framed Clark's impact, and it's almost like he's been watching the same circus we have. He didn't just focus on her basketball skills or her scoring records. Though let's be honest, those speak for themselves in her second year. He zeroed in on something much bigger, her ability to inspire an entire generation of young girls to pick up sports. As Gretzky put it, drawing from his father's wisdom, the greatest thing about sports is that you learn so much about real life. You learn how to be unselfish, you learn how to be dedicated, you learn how to work hard, you learn how to win, and then you learn how to pick yourself up off the ground when you lose. And that's what life is all about. Now, let's be real about what's happening here, because the irony is absolutely delicious. Gretzky didn't need to bring up Clark at all. He could have talked about any athlete from any sport at any time, but he chose Clark, and he chose to emphasize her global impact. That's not an accident. That's recognition from one GOAT to another rising star. And it's coming from someone who's never had to worry about being the diversity hire or whatever ridiculous narrative some people are pushing these days. The fact that this praise is coming from hockey's biggest legend also says something about how Clark has broken through the traditional sports barriers, which is pretty remarkable considering some folks were trying to build those barriers even higher. We're not just talking about basketball fans anymore. We're talking about athletes from completely different sports taking notice and giving respect where it's due. Imagine that, giving credit where credit is due. Revolutionary concept, apparently.
WNBA, they're having troubles with tickets now because I think Caitlin Clark is out for what? How many weeks is she out? She's rolled out for the June 7th game. That's when she was supposed to meet up with Angel Reese again. And
let's talk about the elephant in the room. The ongoing drama surrounding Clark in the WNBA, because boy oh boy has that been something to watch. While other players and media personalities continue to manufacture controversy around her race, her playing style, or whatever the complaint of the week happens to be, here's Wayne Gretzky cutting through all that noise with pure respect. It's almost like he's focused on, actual athletic achievement instead of creating problems where none exist. Gretzky's comments also highlight something that Clark's critics seem to miss completely, probably because they're too busy being bitter about success they didn't create. This isn't just about basketball statistics or individual accolades, though Clark's got plenty of those in just her second year. It's about what she represents for the future of women's sports. The viewership numbers don't lie. Clark has brought millions of new eyes to the WNBA. Ticket sales have skyrocketed. Merchandise is flying off the shelves. That's not happening by accident, despite what some people might want you to believe.
Can we be clear about this? If Caitlin Clark were not in the WNBA, we would not be talking about the WNBA. She is the only ticket draw in the WNBA. A large percentage of all tickets sold in the WNBA are so people can watch Caitlin Clark play basketball. No one cares about Angel Reese. She'd be drawing flies if she were playing not against Caitlin Clark on the court right now. Angel Reese has basically become the Bill Laimbeer to Caitlin Clark's Larry Bird. Essentially, that is where we now are.
The taken over the world comment is particularly telling because it acknowledges something that even some WNBA insiders refuse to admit, probably because it threatens their little gatekeeping operation. Clark's influence extends far beyond American basketball. International media outlets are covering her. Global sports networks are showing WNBA highlights specifically because of her. That's world-changing. Impact, and Gretzky recognized it. Too bad some of her own league peers seem allergic to acknowledging reality, but here's what makes Gretzky's praise even more significant and why it hits different than all the manufactured drama we've been watching. He's been in Clark's position before. He was the young superstar who completely changed how people viewed his sport. He understands what it's like to carry the weight of an entire league on your shoulders while still being in the early stages of your career. When he says Clark has taken over the country, he knows exactly what that pressure feels like. Unlike some people who seem more interested in creating pressure than handling it. The timing of these comments coming during Clark's injury also speaks volumes about what real respect looks like. It would have been easy for Gretzky to focus on actives, players who are currently on the court making headlines. Instead, he chose to highlight someone who's making an impact even while sidelined. That's the definition of transcendent influence. You know, the kind that doesn't require you to be physically present to dominate the conversation. Meanwhile, some players can't get attention even when they're healthy and playing. What's also fascinating is how Gretzky connected Clark's impact to broader life lessons, showing he actually understands what sports are supposed to be about. He wasn't just talking about sports entertainment or marketing value, though Clark's clearly crushing it on both fronts. He was talking about character development, work ethic, and resilience, the kinds of qualities that define true champions across all sports, qualities that some people in the WNBA could probably learn from just saying. The fact that these comments came on the Kelsey Brothers podcast is also worth noting, because context matters. This isn't some niche sports show or women's basketball specific platform where you'd expect WNBA talk. This is one of the biggest sports podcasts in the country, with massive reach across all demographics. Gretzky could have talked about anything, literally anything, and he chose to spend time praising Clark's global impact. That's organic recognition, not some forced narrative. And let's address the obvious question that some people are probably asking. Why is a hockey legend talking about a basketball player? Because real recognizes real, something that apparently needs to be explained to grown adults in 2025. Gretzky has seen what it looks like when an athlete transcends their sport and becomes a cultural phenomenon. He's lived it. So when he sees Clark doing the same thing for women's basketball in just her second year, he understands the magnitude of what's happening. It's called perspective, and it's refreshing to hear from someone who has it. The encourage so many young girls part of his comment is particularly powerful because it addresses one of the most important aspects of Clark's impact that often gets overlooked in all the statistical debates and manufactured controversies. We can argue about shooting percentages and assist to turnover ratios all day, though Clark's numbers speak for themselves. But the inspiration factor is undeniable, unless you're actively trying to deny it, which some people seem committed to doing. Clark's influence on youth participation in basketball has been documented extensively, despite some folks acting like it's imaginary. Girls basketball programs across the country are reporting increased enrollment. Youth leagues are seeing more interest than they have in years. That ripple effect is exactly what Gretzky was talking about when he mentioned volleyball and soccer. 2. Clark's impact is lifting all women's sports. Imagine being mad about that. Actually, don't imagine it. Some people are literally living it. What makes Gretzky's praise even more credible is his perspective on record breaking, which is something he knows a thing or two about. He just watched Ovechkin surpass his all-time goals record, something many thought would never happen. He understands what it means when someone comes along and redefines what's possible in their sport. That's the context he's placing Clark in, as someone who's redefining possibilities in her second year. Not bad company to be in, unless you're determined to be miserable about other people's success. The global aspect of Gretzky's comments also can't be ignored, even though some people would probably prefer it that way. When he says maybe the world, he's acknowledging something that WNBA executives are probably hoping more people recognize. Clark has international appeal. That's not something you can manufacture or fake, despite what the conspiracy theorists might think. That's organic, authentic global interest in what she brings to the game. It's also worth noting what Gretzky didn't say, because sometimes what's not said is just as important. He didn't qualify his praise with comments about her being good for a second-year player or for someone her age. He didn't add any asterisks or conditions. He spoke about her impact in absolute terms as someone who has already achieved something special and significant. No backtracking, no hedging, no but statements, just pure recognition of excellence. The fact that Gretzky chose to share this perspective publicly also matters, especially in today's climate where everything gets twisted into something it's not. He's not someone who throws around praise casually or tries to insert himself into every sports conversation for clout. When he speaks, people listen, and when he chooses to highlight someone's impact, it carries weight across the entire sports world. Unlike some people who seem to open their mouths just to hear themselves talk, this kind of cross-sport recognition is rare and special, which makes it even more ridiculous that some people are probably already trying to find something wrong with it. It happens when an athlete's influence extends beyond their specific game and starts affecting the broader sports landscape. Gretzky recognizing that Clark has reached that level in her second year is significant validation of everything she's accomplished in such a short time. But hey, I'm sure someone will find a way to be upset about it. The emphasis on inspiring young girls also highlights something that separates truly transcendent athletes from just great players, a distinction that seems lost on some people. Anyone can put up impressive statistics or win championships, though Clark's doing both of those things too. But very few athletes can fundamentally change how an entire generation views their sport and their own possibilities within it. That's what Gretzky sees in Clark, and it's what makes her special beyond just her basketball skills. Gretzky's comments also serve as a reminder that while the basketball world gets caught up in debates about playing style, team dynamics, and manufactured media coverage, the broader sports world sees Clark for what she is, a generational talent who's having a generational impact in her second year. Sometimes it takes an outsider's perspective to cut through all the noise and see what's actually happening. What's particularly delicious about all this is how Gretzky's praise completely undermines every negative narrative that's been pushed about Clark. Can't say she's overhyped when hockey's GOAT is praising her global impact. Can't say she's not that influential when someone of Gretzky's stature is using her as an example of transcendent athleticism. Can't say she's just a media creation when authentic recognition is coming from completely unexpected sources. The fact that these comments are coming now while Clark is injured and not even playing just makes them even more powerful. This isn't reactive praise based on a hot streak or a big game. This is reflective recognition of sustained impact that continues even when she's not on the court. That's the kind of influence that can't be faked or manufactured, no matter how much some people might want to pretend otherwise. And honestly, the whole situation is pretty hilarious when you think about it. Here's Wayne Gretzky, unprompted, spending time on a major podcast talking about how Caitlin Clark has taken over the world. Meanwhile, some of her own colleagues in the WNBA are still trying to figure out why she gets attention. The contrast couldn't be more stark, and it says everything you need to know about who actually understands what's happening here. The beauty of Gretzky's comments is their simplicity and authenticity. No agenda, no ulterior motives, no attempts to create controversy or drama. Just one legend recognizing another rising star for what she's actually accomplished. In a world full of manufactured takes and forced narratives, that kind of genuine recognition stands out like a beacon of sanity. So when Wayne Gretzky says Caitlin Clark has taken over the world, maybe it's time for everyone else to stop pretending they don't see what's right in front of them. The Great One has spoken, and he's absolutely right. Wayne Gretzky just gave Caitlin Clark the ultimate stamp of approval, and honestly, it's about time someone with his credentials spoke up. What do you think about the Great One's take on Clark's global impact? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button if you enjoyed this breakdown, and don't forget to subscribe for more honest sports takes.